Ghanaian Cedi, which depreciated by 19.2% in 2024, has shown signs of recovery, appreciating by 3.9% against the US dollar by the end of.
Tonight, we bring you a story that's sending tremors through the global financial landscape, a story of triumph, sovereignty, and a monumental shift in economic power. The Ghanaian Cedi, once dismissed and devalued, has done the unthinkable. It has outperformed the US dollar, the same dollar long regarded as the gold standard of global trade and finance. Yes, you heard that right. The Ghana Cedi has beaten the dollar, and it's no fluke. It is the result of deliberate action, bold reform, and unapologetic self-determination. Ghana, one of West Africa's economic powerhouses, has shattered decades of imposed limitations. It has done what most Western economists said was impossible, and, in doing so, it has thrown down a challenge not just to the West but to the entire continent of Africa. This is not just an economic story, it's a political statement, a strategic maneuver, and a resounding declaration of independence from systems that have historically benefited a few at the expense of many. The rise of the Cedi marks a turning point. It shows that when African leaders take control of their economic narratives, protect their resources, and invest in local value chains, magic happens. But it's not magic, it's strategy, it's vision, it's nation-first leadership. Let's not forget, the Cedi was once riddled with inflation and battered by foreign speculation. For years, its value dropped under the weight of loans, dependency on imported goods, and a lack of protection for local industries. But today, it stands tall, stronger, bolder, and more valuable than ever before. Ghana has refused to be a dumping ground for foreign currencies, policies, and goods. Instead, the nation has doubled down on gold reserves, banned raw exports, encouraged domestic production, and taken control of its fiscal destiny. It's no coincidence that this currency rebound comes at a time when the country has been asserting itself on multiple fronts. Ghana has rejected external loan conditions that erode national autonomy. It has invested in refining its own natural resources, turning cocoa into chocolate, bauxite into aluminum, and lithium into value-added exports. And importantly, it has begun trading with its African neighbors directly in cedis, not dollars. For too long, the African economy has been shaped by invisible hands in Washington, London, and Paris. But the Cedi's rise says enough is enough. We will not continue to enrich others while our people suffer. We will not be told that we are poor when we sit on gold, oil, cocoa, and fertile land. We will not measure our value in a currency we do not control. The rise of the Cedi is a mirror reflecting a broader African awakening, one rooted in dignity, sovereignty, and regional integration. It is a victory for those who believe in a future where African nations trade with one another, produce for themselves, and chart their own course not as aid recipients but as global players. And as the dollar struggles under inflation, debt ceilings, and political uncertainty, Ghana's Cedi offers a glimpse of what happens when a nation puts its people first, its industries first, and its currency first. This moment belongs to Ghana, but the message is for all of Africa. The Ghana Cedi is no longer just a national currency, it's a symbol of defiance, a symbol of self-belief, and a warning to those who once underestimated the resolve of African nations. So as the world watches in disbelief, we say this is only the beginning. Ghana has set the stage. Who will be next? Stay with us as we dive deeper into how this financial revolution unfolded and what it means for the future of Africa and the global economy. I'm John, and this is a new dawn in African economic history.
Welcome to Talk of Africa 360, your source for insightful news, analysis, and thoughtful commentary. If you value informed perspectives and fact-based reporting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is based on reliable public sources and credible online information. It is intended strictly for educational and analytical purposes. We do not promote or endorse political violence, hate speech, or any form of discrimination. Our goal is to inform, not to inflame. Thanks for being here. Let's stay informed together.
Good evening, Africa, and welcome to tonight's most groundbreaking headline. From Accra to Wall Street, from the dusty corridors of old economic textbooks to the shining towers of new African ambition, the world is witnessing a phenomenon that just a few years ago seemed impossible. The Ghanaian Cedi has shocked the world. It has surpassed expectations, defied economic dogmas, and in an unprecedented display of national strategy and continental strength, it has outperformed the almighty US dollar. Let that sink in. This isn't just a headline. This is a paradigm shift. A powerful African currency, once seen as weak, inflation-ridden, and overly dependent on foreign reserves, is now rising in stature, strength, and sovereignty. The Ghana Cedi has become a symbol of what is possible when an African nation decides to take control of its economy, rewrite its rules, and prioritize the well-being of its people over the profit margins of foreign interests. But how did this happen? What led to this monumental reversal of fortune? Tonight, we take you deep into the story of how Ghana turned the tide, not with magic, but with bold leadership, structural reform, and Pan-African principles that dared to question the West's economic orthodoxy. For decades, Ghana, like many African nations, followed the textbook policies prescribed by Western institutions. The IMF said liberalize, and Ghana liberalized. The World Bank said privatize, and Ghana sold state assets. The West said peg your currency, keep reserves in dollars, follow market discipline, and Ghana obliged. What did it get in return? High inflation, currency depreciation, structural adjustment, and a growing dependence on foreign aid, foreign loans, and foreign experts. But in 2023, a new era began. A new leadership emerged, bold, unapologetic, and deeply rooted in Pan-African consciousness. This leadership, led by a government that listened to its people instead of external advisors, said enough is enough. Enough of being at the mercy of the dollar. Enough of exporting raw cocoa and importing finished chocolate. Enough of building other economies while ours stagnate. Ghana refused a new IMF deal. It suspended negotiations with Western credit institutions. And instead, it turned inward, toward local industries, regional trade, and continental collaboration. And what was the result? A currency that defied gravity. A Cedi that beat the dollar, not by accident, but by African intention. The Ghanaian miracle is not a miracle at all. It is the outcome of calculated decisions and long-term vision. Ghana cut its dependency on foreign currency reserves. It reduced dollar holdings and began stockpiling gold as a strategic reserve, not just for symbolism, but because gold is real, African, and immune to U.S. inflation or monetary manipulation. Ghana's central bank then pegged the Cedi partially to its gold reserves, backing its currency with something tangible, something sovereign. Ghana banned the export of unprocessed raw materials. No more giving away raw cocoa, bauxite, or lithium for pennies while importing finished products at inflated prices. Instead, Ghana invested in domestic processing plants, chocolate factories, aluminum refineries, and lithium battery production facilities. This meant more jobs, more exports with added value, and more demand for the Cedi, not the dollar. Ghana began trading directly with other African nations and Cedis. Through platforms like the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, Ghana enabled inter-African trade without relying on the dollar as a middleman. Ghana sold cocoa to Côte d'Ivoire, tech services to Kenya, and processed minerals to Burkina Faso, all in Cedis. It imposed strict capital controls on speculative dollar movements. Gone were the days when foreign investors could manipulate the currency by dumping dollars in and out of the market. Ghana said, "This currency is for our economy, not your casino." The government implemented aggressive national industrialization programs. Made in Ghana became not just a slogan but a strategy. From agriculture to manufacturing, every sector was targeted with financing, protection, and incentives. This wasn't Western-style capitalism. This was Afro-centered economic nationalism. And it worked. When the numbers came in, the world didn't believe it. Currency traders in New York dismissed it as temporary. Financial analysts in London claimed it was manipulated. Economists in Paris said it wouldn't last. But quarter after quarter, the Cedi held firm, even as the dollar stumbled under the weight of U.S. debt and inflation. Ghana's inflation dropped. Imports shrank. Exports surged. And foreign investors, even the skeptical ones, had no choice but to acknowledge something extraordinary was happening in Ghana. Ratings agencies began upgrading Ghana's economic outlook. Investment firms began diversifying into Cedi-based bonds. Regional neighbors started asking for technical assistance. And the West? The same nations that once looked down on Ghana began knocking on its doors with partnership proposals, trying to get back in. This time, not as masters, but as beggars. Because a strong African currency is the one thing the Western financial system was never designed to accommodate. A weak Africa was profitable. A strong Africa is threatening. Ghana's Cedi beating the dollar is not just an economic event. It is a psychological turning point for Africa. For too long, We've been told that African currencies are doomed to fail, that without foreign aid, without dollar reserves, without Western approval, we cannot stand. Ghana just proved that wrong. And now, the doors are open. Other nations are taking notes. Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, Zambia, they're exploring similar models. They're creating gold reserves, banning raw exports, digitizing intra-African trade, and shifting their monetary policy away from dollar dependence. The African Union is paying attention. The AFCFTA Secretariat is engaging with Ghana to replicate this strategy continent-wide. And young African economists, many of whom were once taught that salvation comes from Bretton Woods, are now drawing new models based on Accra, not Washington. The success of the Ghana Cedi is reminding us of what Thomas Sankara once said. We must dare to invent the future. Of course, challenges remain. There will be pushback. The West will not sit idly by as African currencies rise and their control wanes. There will be sanctions. There will be media campaigns. There will be attempts to sabotage this progress. But the momentum is with us. Ghana is not just defending its economy. It is defending Africa's dignity. By proving that we can build strong, stable, independent currencies, we are breaking the final chains of colonialism, monetary control. Let's never forget, colonialism didn't end with flags. It mutated into economic dependence, into debt traps, into currency instability. But today, thanks to Ghana's audacity, we are witnessing the crumbling of that final illusion. The Ghana Cedi is not just a unit of exchange. It is now a symbol of African resistance, of African innovation, and most importantly, of African power. Tonight, Ghana shines not just as a nation, but as a beacon that tells every African child that we can build, we can rise, and yes, we can beat the systems designed to hold us down. The Ghana Cedi has done what many thought impossible. It has stood toe-to-toe with the dollar, not just in markets, but in meaning, and it has emerged victorious. To Ghana, we say thank you. To Africa, we say, the time is now. And to the world, we say, prepare yourselves. Because Africa is not coming. Africa is here.
As reactions continue to pour in from across the continent, one thing is clear. Africa is demanding respect, sovereignty, and accountability. Was this just a diplomatic misstep or a deeper sign of shifting global alliances? We'll be watching closely. If you found this story important, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real, unfiltered African news. This is Talk of Africa 360, telling the stories that matter.